The first thing to understand is that Egypt does not wait for you. The sun rises whether you're ready or not. It spills over the flat line of the horizon like molten copper, stretching across fields that seem endless, across palm groves where birds stir awake. The desert edges gleam pale and patient, and the Nile runs like a spine through it all, steady, slow, eternal. And there you are, not in a palace, not in a myth, but in the doorway of a mudbrick home where the air is already warm and the day has only begun. You feel it in your chest, the weight of a land that has learned to endure. The river breathes in, the desert breathes out. The rhythm is so steady that it almost lulls you, but it also warns you. This is a place where survival is a task, not a given. Every breath is earned. Every sip of water matters. And that is why you wouldn't last. But you don't need to resist. You're here only as a dreamer, as someone listening in the safety of a quiet room, far from the grit and heat. You can let the story move like the river, carrying you without effort. Let the images pass like boats against the current. Listen as the dust settles and feel yourself already sinking into the slow pace of a day older than history itself. The house is small but not poor. It is typical, made of mud brick shaped by hands, stacked and dried under the same sun that warms your face now. The walls are rough, patched here and there, streaked with smoke from lamps and cooking fires. The floor is hardened earth, cool beneath your bare feet. Reed mats soften the edges where you sit, and the smell of last night's bread lingers faintly in the air. Outside, the world hums with quiet work. Chickens scratch near the doorway. A donkey shakes its head, flicking flies from its ears. The voices of neighbors drift across the alley, low and calm. There is no rush, only routine. Life here is measured by the river, and the river moves slowly. Someone nearby is already grinding grain. You can hear the rasp of stone against stone, the steady push of hands as emmer wheat becomes flour, as it has for thousands of mornings before. The rhythm is almost hypnotic, a reminder that food comes not from ease but from labor. Bread will be coarse, filled with bits of husk and grit. It will wear down teeth long before age does. But bread is life, and so it is made again, every morning, without fail. The air is heavy with smoke, not unpleasant, but dense, the kind that clings to your skin and hair. It mingles with the smell of wet clay, the scent of earth soaked from jars of water, brought from the river at dawn. Everything is touched by the Nile, the mud, the crops, the breath of animals, even the sweat on your brow. Without it, there is nothing. With it, there is everything. Now pause a moment. Feel the heat pressing gently at your shoulders. Hear the faint beat of insects in the stillness. Let the sound of the quern stone, the murmur of neighbors, the shifting of animals fold into one long, steady note. The river breathes in, the desert breathes out, and so do you. It is only morning, yet already you understand why your body would fail here. The sun is stronger than you are used to, its light more direct, its persistence greater. There is no shade unless you make it. Water is never simply at hand. It is drawn, carried, stored carefully. Even standing still, you are tired, not from effort, but from being in a world that demands constant awareness. But the people here do not tire. They are shaped by it, the way a reed is shaped by the current. They know how to wrap themselves in linen that breathes, how to walk barefoot on hot ground, how to accept dust in the corners of their lives without fuss. They know that discomfort is not something to be fixed, but something to be endured. And in that endurance is balance. You breathe again with the land. The river breathes in, the desert breathes out. Slowly, you begin to let go of your own sense of hurry, your own modern restlessness. You lean back against the cool mud-brick wall, close your eyes and hear the creak of a wooden door, the shuffle of sandals, the hollow sound of a clay jar set down near the hearth. This is not the grand world of pharaohs and temples, not yet. This is the ordinary Egypt, the lived Egypt, the kind of life most people carried, quiet, repetitive, unrecorded. And in that quiet, in that rhythm, you can feel your own mind begin to loosen. The noise of your day fades. The lists, the tasks, the concerns, they drift like silt in the Nile, carried away by currents older than you can imagine. The sky brightens. A faint breeze stirs the palms. The sun will climb higher, and so will the weight of the day. But for now, you are here, in the gentle beginning, listening to life unfold one grain at a time, one sound at a time. The house breathes with you, the river breathes with you, the desert exhales into silence. And in this stillness, in this beginning, you realize you wouldn't last a day here, no, but you don't have to. You only have to listen and let it carry you like a boat drawn along the Nile, steady, inevitable, timeless. The river breathes in, the desert breathes out, so do you. The house of mud and morning bread. The day in ancient Egypt does not begin with leisure. It begins with work, and it begins early. Inside the one-room home, the walls are cool in the morning shade, though they will radiate heat later. The household is already awake. You hear the grinding once more, the sound of hands pressing down on the heavy upper stone, rolling and scraping it over the lower slab. The grain crunches into meal, little by little, a patient labor that eats away at the hours. You settle closer to the sound. The flour is not smooth, not like what you might know. Tiny shards of husk cling stubbornly to the powder. Bits of sand slip in too, because sand is everywhere, blown into doorways, carried on sandals, settled in baskets. It cannot be kept out, and so the bread itself will be coarse, as gritty as it is nourishing. It is said that Egyptian bread wore teeth down to the root, that skeletons unearthed millennia later reveal mouths ground blunt by years of chewing what was both food and punishment. You take a slow breath, imagining that bite, the crunch, not of crust, but of dust, of stone, of earth itself. The flour is gathered into a bowl, mixed with water drawn from a jar, dark with the faint taste of clay. A pinch of salt, maybe herbs, if the family has them. The dough is left to rest for a moment while smoke from the hearth begins to rise. The oven is simple, a clay dome, darkened and cracked from years of heat. Fuel is precious here. Bundles of reeds, a handful of dung cakes dried in the sun, anything that will burn clean and long enough to harden bread. The fire is coaxed with care, smoke filling the small house until your eyes water. The air thickens. You feel it settle into your chest, but the family hardly notices. For them, it is ordinary. For you, it is already tiring, and you remember you wouldn't last. Beside the bread, another task begins. A jug of fermenting beer is stirred, a thick, cloudy brew made from yesterday's loaves, soaked and strained, sweetened faintly with dates, if fortune allowed. This is not beer as you might imagine, golden and clear. It is porridge you can drink, heavy and sour, a staple that fills the belly when bread alone cannot. Children drink it, elders drink it. It is nourishment, hydration, and ritual all in one. And in the warm, still morning, its smell lingers, yeasty and sharp. Step outside for a moment, and the sun is already lifting higher. The alley between houses is narrow, shadows holding fast against the brightening sky. Neighbors greet one another softly, not with ceremony, but with shared necessity. Everyone is heading to their work. Some will walk toward the fields where the earth has been turned by the flood. Some will carry baskets of reeds or jars of beer for labourers. Others will shoulder tools for stone, for wood, for clay. All of them tied together by a single truth. The land demands labour, and the gods demand order. Back inside the bread bakes, the smell grows rich, comforting, even if rough. You sit on a low stool, leaning back against the wall. Your hands trace the surface of the clay jar nearby. Its sides are cool, even slick with condensation from the water inside. That water is life, stored carefully, covered to keep insects away, carried daily from the Nile in jars, balanced on shoulders, lifted again and again. A single drop, wasted, is felt, not dismissed. The room is crowded now with sound, the crackle of the oven, the mutter of voices, the shuffle of sandals against dirt. A child cries softly, soothed with a hushed lullaby. Someone coughs from the smoke, but then laughter follows, short, tired, but real. In this space of mud and reed, where everything seems so fragile, there is also resilience. You take in the details. On one wall, a simple mat hangs to soften the wind. On another, a clay shelf holds a few amulets, perhaps a small figure of Bess with his tongue out, a charm to guard the household, to bring safety in childbirth and laughter to children. The paint has faded, the edges worn, but the presence is steady. The bread is finished. It is torn into rough pieces, still steaming, handed around with no thought of ceremony. A bit is dipped into the beer, softening it, turning it into a meal. The taste is earthy, sour, filling. You chew slowly, each bite carrying the river, the soil, the labour of grinding stones. It fills you, but it also weighs you down. It is heavy food, food that makes the body endure rather than thrive. And as you eat, you feel again why you would falter here. Not from hunger, the Egyptians have bread and beer enough, even in modest homes, but from the constancy of effort. Nothing is simple, nothing is free. Every swallow is tied to labour, every bite to someone's aching hands, someone's weary shoulders. It is survival through discipline, through rhythm, through routine that never breaks. Yet there is a strange peace in it. The bread is passed hand to hand. The jar of beer moves slowly around the circle. The morning has only just begun, but already it feels eternal, as though this moment will stretch across centuries unchanged. And in a way it has. Archaeologists find the same quern stones, the same bread moulds, the same beer jars in village after village, tomb after tomb. What you hold in your hands now is not just food. It is time itself, baked and brewed, a recipe unchanged across the span of history. The river breathes in, the desert breathes out, the family eats, you listen, the heat rises, and still the day has not even truly begun. The Nile's 3 seasons and the paperwork of life. Step outside, and the world opens wide. The Nile glints under the rising sun, long and patient, stretching beyond the eye. It is not only a river, it is the very heartbeat of the land. Without it, there is no bread, no beer, no villages, no pharaohs. With it, there is everything, though never freely given. The Egyptians knew the river not in days or months, as you know them, but in cycles, 3 great seasons that rolled like a wheel through their lives. Akhet, Pere, and Shemu. The flood, the growing, and the harvest. These were not words for farmers alone. They were the language of the kingdom, the tempo of law, of tax, of survival itself. Akhet, the season of inundation, begins when the river swells with waters from distant rains far to the south. The Nile rises, creeping out of its bed, drowning the fields beneath dark, fertile silt. Villages watch as the land disappears underwater, as if swallowed by the gods. It is a strange time. The work of ploughing and planting cannot yet begin, but neither can anyone rest. Instead, the pharaoh calls men to labor. It is then that corvée is demanded, forced service owed to the state, repaid in sweat instead of coin. You might be summoned to drag stones, to repair dikes, to haul loads for new temples or tombs. The land rests underwater, but your back does not. The flood, beautiful as it is also your master. When the waters retreat, Péré begins, the season of growth. The land reveals itself once more, blanketed with rich black soil. Seeds are scattered by hand, ploughs drawn by oxen carve furrows through the fields. Families bend low, planting, tending, trusting that the Nile has been generous enough. Days are long and the sun is merciless, but every hour is necessary. If the seed takes, there will be bread. If it does not, hunger waits. And then comes Shemu, the harvest. Sickles cut through fields of grain, baskets swell with yield, and threshing floors fill with chaff. It is a season of noise, of donkeys braying, of families working together, of laughter mixed with sweat. But the harvest is not yours to keep, not fully. For as soon as the grain is gathered, the officials appear. They arrive with tablets and tallies, with scribes who dip reed pens into ink and mark what is owed. They measure by basket, by heap, by the weight of what has been taken from the soil. You watch as your labor is counted in strokes of ink. Part of your harvest is kept, yes, but part is claimed by the state. Taxes are not optional. The pharaoh's household must eat, the temples must be fed, the granaries must be filled. Grain is wealth, and you are reminded again that wealth does not belong only to you. The scribe's presence is inescapable. His voice is calm, his reed pen steady. He is not dusty from the fields. He is clean, his hands soft compared to yours. He is respected, envied even, for he lives in a world of words rather than sweat. But his pen can weigh heavier than stone. A single mark can determine how much of your family's food is taken away. And if you resist, there are guards nearby, ready to remind you of order. This is the heartbeat of Ma'at, the order of the world. The Egyptians believed it was not just the pharaoh who kept balance, but everyone. Each farmer sowing at the right time, each scribe recording honestly, each family honoring the cycles. To break from it, to withhold grain, to ignore dues, was not just rebellion. It was disorder against the gods themselves. Still, there is beauty in the pattern. The flood arrives, the seed is planted, the harvest is gathered, the tax is paid. Year after year, without fail, the cycle repeats. To you it may seem heavy, unrelenting, but to them it was stability, a comfort in a harsh land. To know that the river would rise, that the soil would be renewed, was to know that life itself would continue. Pause here. Picture the fields stretching to the horizon, green under the sun, the air filled with the buzz of insects and the calls of workers. Picture the tall grain bending as wind passes over, rippling like water. Hear the scratch of reeds on papyrus as a scribe records in careful lines. Feel the weight of baskets against your shoulders, the dust clinging to sweat. This is life, and it is endless. But also imagine your own body in this world. The heat pressing you flat, the labor demanding every ounce of strength. Imagine the taste of bread owed away before you can eat it. Imagine the feeling of being watched, measured, recorded, always. You would falter, for your world is one of choice and abundance. Here there is only necessity. And yet in the rhythm there is something soothing, something steady. The Nile flows, the cycle turns, and all things move as they should. The river breathes in, the desert breathes out. You let your eyes close for a moment. You hear the murmur of water, the scrape of sickles, the soft scratch of pen against papyrus. You feel yourself drawn into the pulse of the land, into the slow certainty that this has been and will be forever. The Nile rises, the Nile falls, the seasons turn, your breath follows. Heat, hygiene, and the itch of everyday survival. The sun climbs higher now, and with it comes a pressure you cannot escape. It presses against the mudbrick walls, seeps through doorways, wraps around your shoulders. There is no shade wide enough, no breeze strong enough. The Nile glitters like metal, too bright to look at for long. You breathe slowly, trying to cool yourself, but the air is already hot when it enters your chest. The Egyptians knew this heat well, and they lived with it as naturally as you live with the changing of traffic lights or the turning of seasons. For them, discomfort was a companion, not an enemy. For you, though, it is unbearable. You would search for water, for shade, for anything cool, but they simply carry on. Clothing helps, though only a little. Everyone wears linen, light and airy, woven from flax grown along the riverbanks. The fibers are pale, almost white, and they catch the sun rather than absorb it. A man's kilt, a woman's simple sheath dress, a child's bare skin under the open sky, all practical, all minimal. For you, it might feel like too little, too revealing. For them, it is survival, and beauty too. Hair is another matter. To carry long hair in this heat would be misery. Sweat and dust would tangle it, lice would nest in it, discomfort would never end. And so most shave their heads smooth, scraping away every strand with copper razors, leaving only bare skin. Wigs take their place, woven from human hair or from plant fibers, oiled and perfumed, worn for occasions or for dignity. To your hand it feels strange, heavy yet elegant, smelling faintly of resin and myrrh. Children too are often shaved, their scalps cool in the sun, sometimes with only a small side lock left as a marker of youth. Eyes are lined with kohl, not merely for beauty, but for function. The dark line reduces the sun's glare, shields from the brightness that never ends. It also keeps flies away, insects drawn to the moisture at the corners of eyes. When you first trace the line across your own skin, it feels like ceremony, like decoration. Soon, though, you understand, it is medicine as much as adornment. Without it, the burning sun and the buzzing flies would never let you rest. There are oils for the skin, too. Palm oil, castor oil, unguents perfumed with lotus or frankincense. The desert strips moisture from the body, leaves skin cracked, rough, dry. A layer of oil softens it, shields it, gives some comfort. You rub it into your arms, your face, your legs. It glistens under the sun, smelling sweet, though sticky in the dust. Still, it is relief. Yet, for all this care, cleanliness is never complete. Sand creeps into everything. It is in your sandals, grinding against your heels. It is in your clothes, scratching at your skin. It is in your food, in your bed, even in the folds of the linen wrapped around you. No sweep of reed broom can keep it away. No mat can block it from the wind. To live here is to live with sand, always. And then there are the insects. Mosquitoes rise in clouds near the water, biting, buzzing in your ear as you try to rest. Lice hide in the folds of cloth, waiting for warmth. Flies gather wherever food is left uncovered. You swat, you scratch, you grow restless, but the Egyptians do not. They smear oil, they line their eyes, they burn incense, they endure. They have lived with these companions so long that irritation is woven into daily life. For you, it is torment. For them, it is nothing new. Hygiene is both simple and careful. People wash often, not with soap as you know it, but with natron, a natural salt found in dry riverbeds. It cleanses, deodorizes, dries the skin. Clothes are laundered in the river, beaten against stones, dried in the sun, until stiff. Bodies are rinsed in jars of cool water, children bathed in basins, hands and faces refreshed before meals. Even in poverty, there is effort to remain clean because the heat leaves no other choice. But the heat does not relent. It grows stronger as the day turns. Your skin burns, your head aches, sweat stings your eyes. You long for shade, for air that does not choke with dust. Yet the Egyptians move calmly through it. They have learned to work in cycles, labor early, rest at midday, labor again in the cool of evening. Their bodies bend to the sun's rule. Yours does not. You stumble, you wipe your brow again, and again you wish for respite. Still amid the discomfort there is rhythm. The scrape of sandals on the ground, the creak of water jars lifted, the hum of voices low and steady. The river glimmers, the desert shimmers, the air hums with heat. And through it all, the Egyptians move without complaint. Pause here, close your eyes, feel the sweat on your back, the sting of sun on your shoulders, smell the smoke of burning reeds, the oil on your skin, the dust in your throat. Let yourself sink into it, heavy, exhausted. The river breathes in, the desert breathes out. You are caught between them, worn already by what they demand, and yet life continues. You wipe your face, adjust your linen, smear another line of coal. You take another step into the day because there is no choice but to endure. The heat is not an obstacle, it is the air itself, and that is why you would not last. Not because of hunger or poverty, not because of labor alone, but because every moment, every breath is pressed by discomfort. The sun never forgets you, the sand never leaves you, the insects never rest. Survival here is not dramatic, it is constant, quiet, wearing. But for those born to it, it is life. And they do not resist it, they live it, they fold it into themselves, they endure. And in that endurance is strength you cannot match. The river breathes in, the desert breathes out. You wipe your brow once more, and the day carries you onward, on the gang. Work crews and building days. The sun has burned through the morning haze now, and the village stirs with louder steps. It is time for the day's true work. Some head for the fields, bending over rows of young shoots. But you this morning are sent with a work gang, summoned by the Pharaoh's command. The river's flood has passed, the earth lies ready for planting, and so the kingdom borrows your labor. You do not choose, you go because you must. The road is hot beneath your sandals, dust clinging to your ankles as you join a line of men moving steadily toward the quarries. Each carries a tool, copper chisels dulled from use, ropes coiled around shoulders, baskets waiting to be filled. Donkeys bray under loads of water jars. Foremen walk at the sides, their eyes sharp, their voices low but firm. This is not punishment, it is duty, but it feels heavy all the same. The quarry yawns open, a wound in the earth where stone waits. Blocks are marked with red lines, their edges traced by chalk and cord. The sound of work rises immediately, the strike of hammer against chisel, the crack of stone, the groan of ropes pulled taut. Dust fills the air, fine and white, coating skin and sticking to sweat. You cough, you blink, your throat burns. Around you, no one falters. They are used to this air, this weight, this endless rhythm of strike and lift, strike and lift. A team works together to free a block. One chisels at the base, another drives wedges into cracks, another wets the stone to ease its breaking. When at last the block shudders and shifts, ropes are tied around it, and the crew leans forward with a grunt. Sand is poured on the path ahead, water splashed to ease the drag. The block slides slowly, inch by inch, drawn toward the sledges that will carry it further. You push with them, your shoulders pressed against rough rope, your feet slipping in the wet sand. The block hardly moves. Every muscle strains, your breath catches, your chest aches. But beside you, men sing in rhythm, low chants that keep their steps together. The song steadies them, distracts them, lifts them past the pain. To you, the work feels impossible. To them, it is simply the day. When the block reaches the sledge, the crew pauses. Bread and beer are handed out, rations for strength. The bread is dense, the beer sour and thick, but it revives. You sit in the shadow of the stone for a moment, letting the cool seep into your back, though the foreman's gaze never lets you rest long. Already another team is calling for ropes, another block waiting. The work never ends. The labor is paid, not in coin, but in sustenance. Each man receives his ration, his daily measure of bread, his jug of beer, sometimes onions or fish, if supplies allow. The pay is life itself, enough to keep the muscles moving, the bodies standing. Complaints are rare, though not unheard of. At Deir el Medina, where tomb builders once lived, men struck when rations ran short. Their voices are recorded even now, scratched into papyrus, demanding fairness. But here, today, no strike comes, only the grind of stone and the rhythm of chants. As the hours pass, your body sags, shoulders ache from rope, hands blister against stone, lungs choke on dust. You look around and wonder how the others endure. Their backs are as bent as yours, their hands as raw, yet they continue, steady, as if carved themselves from granite. The answer is simple. They have known this since youth. Their fathers worked before them, their sons will work after them. For you it is unbearable, for them it is continuity. The sun moves higher still, pressing down like a weight. Sweat stings your eyes, salt crusts on your lips. Someone near you collapses, not from laziness, but from heat. Others gather quickly, fanning with mats, offering water, lifting him aside. A scribe notes the event with his reed pen. Every man is counted, every absence recorded. Then the work resumes as steady as before. Pause here. Hear the scrape of stone against stone, the groan of ropes, the low hum of songs. Smell the dust, the sweat, the sour tang of beer. Feel the strain in your arms, your legs, your back. Let it press against you, then drift with it, as though the sound itself is carrying you into a softer place. The river breathes in, the desert breathes out. By late day, the sledge groans forward with its burden. Teams push, pull, chant, rest, then begin again. Progress is slow, but it is progress. The block inches closer to its destination, where builders will shape it, stack it, set it into walls or tombs or temples. You may not see the finished monument. You may not even understand its purpose, but you are part of it whether you wish to be or not. And this is what you would not endure. Not the labor alone, but the relentlessness of it. Day after day, year after year, the same dust, the same stone, the same chants. Your body would fail, your spirit would rebel. But the Egyptians did not fail, did not rebel, not often. They carried their burdens, they lifted their stones, they built a civilization, one block at a time. The sun begins to lower, shadows stretching long across the quarry. Tools are gathered, ropes coiled, baskets emptied of stone chips. The men walk back in line, quiet now, their energy spent. The foremen tally once more, scribes record the numbers, and the day is closed. Tomorrow it will begin again. You walk back with them, your body aching, your mind heavy. And yet there is a strange calm in the rhythm, a sense that in this endless labor there is also permanence. Each stone moved is another step into eternity. Each chant sung is another note in the song of a kingdom that believes itself unending. The river breathes in, the desert breathes out, and you, carried by the sound of weary feet in the dust, sink deeper into stillness. Hands of the craftsman. After the weight of stone and the dust of the quarry, you find yourself drawn to another world, quieter, but filled with its own intensity. This is not the place of hauling blocks or dragging sledges. It is the workshop, where artisans bend close to their work, where monuments become beautiful, where temples and tombs receive the hands that make them sacred. Here the air is thick, not with stone dust alone, but with the powder of pigments, with the metallic scent of gold, with the warm smell of wood newly cut. Light filters in through narrow doorways, falling across rows of men seated on low stools, their backs bent, their hands moving with patient certainty. The stone cutters are first. They sit with chisels of copper and bronze, striking rhythmically with wooden mallets. Each tap is measured, controlled, coaxing the stone rather than breaking it. Blocks are trimmed, smoothed, their edges squared, so they will fit neatly in the hands of builders. The work is not quick, but it is precise. If you were to try, your blows would falter, the chisel would slip, the stone would crack. Their arms are steady, their eyes trained, their patience endless. Nearby, carvers lean over slabs of limestone, tracing lines drawn by scribes. Hieroglyphs take shape under their tools, the curve of a reed, the beak of an ibis, the outstretched wings of Horus. Each sign is more than decoration. Each carries meaning, power, permanence. The artisan knows this, feels it in the weight of his hand as he cuts. To you the symbols are foreign, mysterious. To him they are as clear as spoken words and as binding as law. Woodworkers shape cedar imported from faraway lands, prized for its strength and scent. They carve chairs, chests, beds, doors, each piece smoothed with sandstone rubbers, polished with oils. The wood glows, soft beneath the light, fragrant with resin. You run your hand over the grain, and it feels alive. Yet the carpenter does not linger. There is always more to be shaped, always another order to be filled. Goldsmiths crouch over small furnaces, bellows sighing as fire licks at crucibles. Gold softens, melts, pours into tiny molds. Rings, amulets, necklaces form, each glowing as if touched by the sun itself. The pieces are delicate, precise, impossibly fine. The craftsman's fingers move with care, balancing strength with gentleness. One mistake, and the metal is wasted. You try to imagine the steadiness required, and your own hands tremble in comparison. Painters grind minerals into powder. Malachite for green, ochre for yellow and red, lapis for deep blue. They mix the powders with water and gum, dipping reed brushes into the paste, laying it carefully onto plastered walls. Figures come alive. Men rowing boats, women grinding grain, gods striding tall with crowns of feathers. The colours are vivid, bright, lasting even in the dim glow of a torch. The air hums with the scent of crushed stone, chalky and sharp, and you breathe it in, coughing softly, while the artisans continue without pause. Everywhere in the workshop there is repetition. Stroke after stroke, line after line, tap after tap. It is not labour of brute force, but of endurance just the same. Hours pass in silence, but for the scrape of tools, the low murmur of craftsmen trading words, the hiss of fire, the brush of reeds against plaster. To you the monotony is dizzying. Your body aches, not from lifting, but from sitting too long, from holding still, from forcing the same motion again and again. To them it is second nature. Pause here, close your eyes. Hear the faint ringing of chisel on stone, the rustle of brushes, the sigh of bellows. Smell the resin, the pigment, the smoke. Imagine your own hands at work. clumsy, uncertain, shaking after only a few minutes. Now imagine theirs, steady, unbroken, repeating for years, for lifetimes. That is the difference. That is why you would not last. But there is beauty in their endurance. Look at the walls they finish, the statues they complete. Look at the jewelry that gleams, the furniture polished smooth. These are not simple things, they are treasures meant for temples, for palaces, for tombs where kings will sleep for eternity. The artisans themselves live modestly, often in small villages set apart from the great works. But their hands shape eternity. Their names may be forgotten, but their work endures, glowing still under desert sands. At Deir el-Medina, the village of tomb builders, walls were covered in graffiti, jokes, sketches, small notes, scratched by weary craftsmen at the end of the day. They were human, like you, laughing, complaining, carving little pictures to amuse themselves. Yet by day they painted gods in brilliant hues, carved doors to forever, laid down images that would outlast kingdoms. Think of the patience required. A single mistake could ruin months of effort. A slip of the chisel, a smear of pigment, a crack in the wood, and yet day after day they kept their hands steady. Your own body would beg to stop, your mind would drift, your fingers would ache. But theirs did not because they did not feel it, but because they had learned to endure it. The river breathes in, the desert breathes out, the workshop hums with steady life. You let yourself sink into the rhythm, the tap of chisels, the sigh of bellows, the brush of pigment. It is soothing, hypnotic, almost like a lullaby. And as you drift, you realize the monuments of Egypt, the temples, the tombs, the treasures, they are not miracles. They are the patient work of hands of men and women whose names you will never know, whose backs bent over benches and stones until the day was done. You would not last, not for a single afternoon, but they lasted for lifetimes, and their work remains. The river breathes in, the desert breathes out. You close your eyes and the workshop continues without you, timeless, steady, eternal. School of the scribe. The noise of the workshop fades, the dust and sweat falling away. In its place comes the scratching of reed pens on papyrus, the soft murmur of voices reciting, the crack of a teacher's stick against a wooden desk. You are no longer among labourers or craftsmen. You are seated in the school of a scribe, where words are shaped into power, where knowledge itself is the greatest tool. The room is simple, reed mats on the floor, small wooden tablets smeared with plaster to be written on and scraped clean, pots of black and red ink made from soot and ochre. Boys sit cross-legged, their backs straight under the watchful eye of the teacher. They hold reeds trimmed sharp, dipping them carefully into ink, trying not to blot or smear. On papyrus sheets, lines of hieroglyphs march like rows of soldiers, orderly, precise, unyielding. You pick up a reed and find it awkward in your hand. The tip scratches against the papyrus, leaving uneven marks, smudges that make the teacher frown. Around you, boys of 10 or 12 write with ease, their strokes fluid, their signs practiced. They have been at this since childhood, their mornings filled with drills, their evenings with copying texts by lamplight. Their hands are calloused not by stone or rope, but by the reed, hardened by repetition, scarred by ink. The lessons are relentless. First, the simplest signs, the owl, the reed leaf, the loaf of bread. Then the more complex, whole phrases copied again and again until the hand obeys without thought. The teacher paces, eyes sharp, correcting errors with swift strikes of a stick. The students murmur aloud as they copy. A scribe is greater than a soldier, for his words outlast the sword. Their voices drone in unison, a chant as steady as the quarry songs, but sharper, thinner, filled with discipline. To you it is suffocating. Your hand cramps after only a few lines. Your back stiffens from sitting upright. Your mind wanders as the teacher demands focus. The symbols blur together, a river of lines and birds and snakes. You blink hard, but the page does not grow clearer. Around you, the boys do not falter. They are used to this, trained for it. For them, words are not mystery, they are survival. Pause here. Hear the scrape of reeds, the murmur of voices, the sharp crack of discipline. Smell the ink, sharp and earthy, mixed with gum and soot. Feel the stiffness in your back, the ache in your fingers. This is not heavy labor, yet it weighs on you just the same. For the life of a scribe demands not muscle, but patience, obedience, and unyielding attention. And there is more than writing. The students memorize hymns to the gods, lists of offerings, laws, and decrees. They copy wisdom texts, moral lessons left by earlier scribes. Do not be lazy, or you will fall into poverty. Do not speak too much, or you will be despised. Each line is repeated, copied, drilled into the mind until it becomes truth. The teacher does not tolerate questions. To learn is to obey. To remember is to survive. Your body longs to move, your mind to wander. You imagine the open sky, the sound of the river, the feel of sand underfoot. But here the air is thick with ink and dust, with the weight of tradition pressing on you. The others remain still, their eyes down, their hands steady. To them this is freedom, the freedom not to haul stones, not to bend in the fields. To you it feels like a cage, yet the rewards of the scribe are real. Those who master the pen rise above the common man. They record taxes, manage estates, serve in temples, keep the words of kings. They eat well, dress well, live lives free from calloused hands and bent backs. They are respected, their names remembered. In tombs, scribes are painted sitting tall, pen in hand, their eyes calm and proud. The work may be endless, but it carries honor. Still you would not last. The patience required would drain you. The long hours of repetition, the constant correction, the demand for perfection in every stroke. Your mind would rebel, your body falter, your spirit crave escape. The boys beside you, raised in this from birth, do not flinch. They accept the burden and transform it into skill. You cannot. The teacher calls for another exercise. On your tablet, you are to copy a proverb. The tongue of a man is his sword, but the pen of a scribe is sharper still. Your reed scratches across the plaster, leaving clumsy marks. The boy next to you writes the same line with perfect grace. The teacher nods at him, frowns at you, and strikes the edge of your tablet with his stick. Your hand jolts, your ink splatters, and you feel shame burn in your chest. The room hums with steady sound, as hypnotic as the quarry, as endless as the workshop. Scratch, murmur, strike. Scratch, murmur, strike. The river breathes in, the desert breathes out. Outside, the world of Egypt continues, boats drifting on the Nile, farmers bending in the fields, priests chanting in temples. But inside this school, time is measured only in lines copied, lessons memorized, strokes perfected, day after day, year after year, until the boy becomes a man, until his hand moves without error, until he takes his place among the scribes of the kingdom. You, though, would not endure. You would falter in patience, fail in discipline, collapse beneath the monotony. The ink would stain your hands, the reed snap in your grip, and the teacher's frown would linger forever. The scribes would carry on without you, their lines neat and unbroken, their words destined to last long after the monuments crumble. The river breathes in, the desert breathes out. The reeds scratch on, and you drift away with the sound, carried into stillness. In the service of the gods, the scratching of reed pens fades, and in its place comes the low chant of voices echoing off high stone walls. The air grows heavier, scented with incense and burning resin. You are no longer seated in a dusty classroom. You are standing in the great temple, its pillars rising like a forest of stone, carved with gods who watch you with eyes that do not blink. This is the world of the priest. Their labor is not of stone, nor of reed, but of ritual. Every day, without fail, they serve the gods, washing statues, offering bread and beer, reciting hymns that must never falter. They are guardians of order, protectors of Mart, the balance of the world. And their lives are ruled not by freedom, but by rules, endless and unyielding. You walk through the dim halls. The light is faint, filtered through narrow slits, falling in golden shafts onto smooth floors. The walls glow with paint, scenes of gods receiving offerings, kings bowing low, priests lifting their hands in devotion. Every surface speaks of eternity. Every sound is hushed, as if the stone itself demands silence. The priests move with precision. They wash themselves before dawn, scrubbing their bodies clean, shaving their heads smooth. Purity is their law. No hair, no dirt, no blemish allowed before the gods. Their linen robes are white, stiff, unwrinkled. They walk barefoot, their steps quiet on the cool stone. Even their breath seems measured, restrained, as though the gods are listening. At the heart of the temple lies the sanctuary, dark and still. Here stands the statue of the god, hidden from all but the highest priests. To the people outside, the temple is vast and grand, but they will never enter this place. Only the priests may step inside to wake the god each morning, to bathe and clothe the statue, to place fresh food and drink before it. Pause. Imagine the silence here, broken only by the murmur of hymns, the soft splash of water as the statue is washed, the faint crackle of oil lamps burning. You can smell the incense, sharp and sweet, hanging in the air like a curtain. You can feel the weight of the ritual pressing on you, the knowledge that one mistake, one forgotten word, one impurity could disturb the balance of the world. To live as a priest is to surrender yourself. Days are divided by rituals, not by choice. You must wake before dawn, purify yourself, chant the same prayers, make the same offerings. The meals you eat are not chosen. They are the leftovers from offerings to the god. The words you speak are not your own. They are hymns memorized and repeated without end. To you this feels suffocating. You crave movement, freedom, the ability to wander where you please. But here, every step is prescribed. Every gesture has meaning. Your hands must lift the offerings just so. Your voice must recite without faltering. Your heart must remain steady without distraction. For the god watches always, even from behind stone eyes. The other priests do not seem to mind. They have lived this way for years, their bodies and minds trained to obedience. They move like shadows, quiet, precise, steady. They know the chants by heart, the rituals by instinct. For them, the repetition is not a burden, but a path to holiness. For you, it is a weight pressing heavier with each hour. Outside the sanctuary, the temple thrums with life. Scribes record donations, guards watch the gates, servants sweep the floors, bakers prepare loaves, brewers fill jars with beer. The temple is not only a place of worship, it is a city within the city, a storehouse of wealth, a center of learning, a power greater than any single household. To serve here is an honor, but it is also a chain. You belong not to yourself, but to the god. And the rules extend beyond the walls. Priests live with restrictions even outside the temple. Some may not eat fish, others may not touch certain foods. They must avoid impurity, no contact with death, no unclean acts, no breaking of sacred law. Even their dreams are bound by ritual, for visions were thought to carry messages, and one wrong dream could shake a man to his core. Pause again. Feel the heaviness of this life, the silence, the weight of rules, the endless rituals. Your body longs to move freely, to laugh, to speak in your own voice. But here, even laughter feels forbidden, swallowed by the high stone walls. And yet there is power in this service. Priests are respected, their words carry weight, their presence commands awe. They walk the line between man and God, standing in both worlds at once. To outsiders, they are figures of mystery, keepers of secrets, guardians of eternity. Their names may not be carved on monuments, but their hands uphold the gods themselves.
You, though, would not last. The silence would crush you. The endless rituals would numb you. The weight of purity would break you. Your hand would falter, your voice stumble, your thoughts drift, and the God would see it all. The priests would continue without you, steady and unyielding, their lives given wholly to duty. The river breathes in. The desert breathes out.
The incense curls higher, the hymns echo softer, the sanctuary remains still. You close your eyes, and the temple carries on without you, eternal, unchanging, as it has for centuries. Soldiers and warriors. The incense fades, the stone walls vanish, and suddenly the world is wide again. The desert wind whips against your face, dry and sharp. All around you stretch rows of men, spears and shields in hand, marching in step across the sand. This is the life of a soldier in ancient Egypt. It is not the glory-filled vision you might imagine, with banners flying and swords clashing. It begins in dust, in discipline, in endless repetition. You rise before the sun, your body sore from the day before, your stomach empty, but your orders clear. The sergeant shouts and you fall into line, shield in one hand, spear in the other. The shield is heavy, made of wood bound with rawhide, and the spear's shaft bites into your palm. Still you grip them tight. There is no choice. The sun climbs and the drills begin, marching in formation, turning in unison, raising shields as one. The sound is deafening, stamping feet, the crack of commands, the clash of wood on wood. Sweat stings your eyes, your back aches, your throat dries to dust, but you cannot falter. One mistake, one slip in formation, and the sergeant's staff comes down hard on your shoulders. The army does not forgive weakness. Pause. Hear the boots strike sand, the shields thud, the breath of hundreds moving together. The heat presses down, the dust rises, the horizon shimmers. This is not battle, but it feels like one. War against the desert itself, fought with discipline and endurance. Your rations are simple: bread, onions, dried fish, sometimes beer, if the stores are generous. You eat quickly, sitting in the dust before the horn sounds again. Then it is back to drill, back to the rhythm of war. Shield up, spear forward, march, halt, turn.
Again and again until your arms are numb, your legs tremble, your mind empties. The army trains not only the body but the spirit. Songs are shouted as you march, chants to drive away fear, to bind the men together. You join in, your voice cracking, your throat raw. The rhythm carries you, lifts you, pushes you onward. It is the only thing that keeps your feet moving when your body wants to collapse.
But training is only half the life. Sometimes orders come and the unit marches out, not across practice grounds but across the Nile into foreign lands, where danger is real and fear sharpens every breath. The journey itself is grueling. Days of marching under the sun, nights of restless sleep on hard ground. Your feet blister, your skin burns, your strength dwindles. Still you walk, for the penalty of desertion is death. When battle comes, it is chaos. The enemy appears as a wave across the horizon, shouting, beating drums, raising dust. Your heart hammers, your stomach twists, but there is no time to think. The horn sounds, the sergeant roars, and you raise your shield, lock with the men beside you and push forward. The noise is overwhelming. Shouts, screams, the clash of metal, the thud of arrows striking shields. You can smell blood, sweat, and fear all around you. The spear in your hand trembles, heavy now, slick with sweat. You thrust forward, again and again, not seeing faces, only shapes, only shadows in the dust. Your arms ache, your ears ring, your eyes blur. The world narrows to survival. Pause. Feel the crush of men around you, the weight of the shield on your arm, the fear pressing against your chest. The dust blinds, the noise deafens, the chaos swallows you whole. There is no glory here, only survival. When the fighting ends, if you are still standing, you return to camp. The dead are counted, the wounded groan, the living slump in silence. Bread is passed around, beer, if the gods are kind. You eat with shaking hands, the taste like ash in your mouth. You try to sleep, but your dreams are filled with shouting, with the sound of arrows, with the sight of men falling. This is the soldier's life. Discipline, hardship, fear, and survival. For some, it brings honor, land grants, a share of spoils, respect in the village. For others, it brings only scars, inside and out. Many do not return at all. You, though, would not last. The drills would break your body, the marches drain your spirit, the battles crush your will. The sergeant's voice would batter your ears, the shield carve bruises into your arm, the spear weigh down your soul. You would falter, stumble, fall behind. And in the army, weakness is not forgiven. The men beside you endure. They push forward, their feet steady, their eyes hard, their voices strong in chant and shout. They do not flinch, for they cannot. They live by discipline alone, and it carries them where strength alone cannot. The river breathes in, the desert breathes out. The army marches on, dust rising in its wake, the sound of shields and spears beating like a drum. You close your eyes, and the march carries you into silence. Merchants and trade. The clash of spears dies away, and in its place rises a different sound. Voices calling, coins clinking, donkeys braying, the creak of carts heavy with goods. You are no longer on the battlefield. You are in the marketplace, the heart of trade, where Egypt breathes in wealth and breathes out abundance. The sun glints off polished jars, baskets of grain, gleaming beads of faience. Merchants spread their wares before you, linen finely woven, amulets carved from stone, jars of fragrant oil sealed with clay. The air is thick with smells, spices sharp and sweet, fresh bread still warm, fish drying in the sun, the faint bite of copper and bronze. You stand among it all, a merchant in training, clutching your bundle of goods. It seems simple: sell, trade, profit. But here, every transaction is a test of wit, patience, and endurance. The marketplace is no place for the faint-hearted. The noise never ends. Buyers haggle, voices rise, hands gesture, deals are struck. A man inspects your linen, tugging at the weave, frowning at a flaw only he sees. He names a price so low it feels like insult. You must smile, argue, flatter, protest. To sell is to act, to play a role as shifting as the river. Too soft and you are cheated, too harsh and the buyer walks away. Pause here. Hear the overlapping voices, sharp, rhythmic, endless. Feel the press of bodies as the crowd swells, the heat of so many people in one place, the sweat running down your back. This is no gentle stroll. It is battle in its own right, fought with words instead of weapons. Beyond the marketplace lie the trade routes. Caravans wind across the desert, donkeys laden with jars of oil, baskets of grain, bundles of papyrus. Boats drift along the Nile, their sails swelling with the wind, carrying gold from Nubia, cedar from Lebanon, incense from Punt. To be a merchant is to move always, to endure journeys as grueling as any soldier's march. The road is long. The sun beats down, the sand shifts underfoot. The caravan creaks and groans. Water is precious, food sparse, dangers many. Bandits lurk in the hills, storms sweep the desert, illness spreads among the men. Yet still you press onward, for each step brings you closer to profit. But profit is never certain. You may arrive with your jars cracked, your grain spoiled, your wares stolen by thieves. Months of hardship can vanish in a single mishap. And if you return empty-handed, there is no pity waiting at home. Only debts, only shame, only hunger. Pause again. Feel the weight of the pack on your shoulders, the dryness of your throat, the sting of sun on your skin. Imagine trudging through the desert, each step a fight, each night restless on hard ground. The glamour of trade fades quickly. What remains is labor, risk, and endless negotiation. Even in success, the life of a merchant is not easy. Wealth brings envy, and rivals circle like hawks. A competitor may spread rumors that your wares are poor, that your scales are false, that your goods come from cursed lands. Customers may vanish overnight, drawn to a rival's stall. The same sharp tongue that wins a bargain one day may spark resentment the next. And wealth itself is fleeting. Grain spoils, cloth frays, copper corrodes. What you earn must be reinvested, traded again, risked once more. There is no resting, no hoarding. The merchant's life is a wheel, always turning, never still. For you this life is unbearable. The noise would crush your ears, the haggling twist your stomach, the journeys break your body. You would falter at the first insult, stumble on the first road, despair at the first loss. The merchants around you would move on, sharp-eyed, sharp-tongued, relentless. They know the game and they play it without mercy. Yet they, too, suffer. Their faces are lined with worry, their hands rough from travel, their eyes sharp from suspicion. They sleep lightly, always alert to danger, always planning the next journey, the next bargain. Their lives are a gamble, one where the stakes are survival itself. Still, trade endures. Egypt thrives because of it. The grain of the Nile feeds the world, the gold of Nubia shines in palaces, the incense of Punt sweetens the temples. The merchants carry Egypt's wealth on their backs across deserts and rivers, through sweat and risk and endless toil. The river breathes in, the desert breathes out, the marketplace hums, the caravans move, the sails billow. You close your eyes and the trade continues, ceaseless, eternal, as it always has. Women's roles and domestic life. The shouting of merchants softens, the dust of caravans settles, and you find yourself in a shaded courtyard. The air is cooler here, the walls whitewashed, the smell of baking bread drifting through an open doorway. This is the world of women in ancient Egypt, quiet at first glance, but carrying a weight of responsibility that shapes every household, every family, every life. You hear the rhythmic sound of a grinding stone. A woman kneels over a slab, crushing grain with a smaller stone, her arms strong, her back bowed. The motion is steady, endless. Hour after hour, day after day, grain must be ground to feed the household. Her hands are calloused, her body sore, yet she works without pause. For bread is the heart of every meal, and without her labor the family starves. In another corner, a loom creaks softly. Threads stretch taut, and fingers move with practiced speed, weaving linen cloth. The cloth is smooth, fine if the family is wealthy, coarse if they are not. Either way, it must be made, cut, and sewn into garments. The work is slow, the hours long, but the household depends on it. Children play nearby, their laughter mixing with the sounds of labor. The woman keeps one eye on them as she works, calling out warnings, soothing cries, guiding small hands. To raise children is as demanding as grinding grain or weaving cloth, and no less essential. Pause here. Picture the scene clearly: the grinding stone, the loom, the children darting between shadows, the smell of bread and stew, the faint hum of bees in the garden outside. This is domestic life, ordinary, relentless, essential. But women's roles stretch beyond labor. They manage the household, balancing food, clothing, and trade. They keep accounts in their minds, remembering who owes what has been borrowed, what must be repaid. They guard the family's wealth, however small, with care and caution. A misstep here, a wasted loaf, a lost jar of oil can mean hunger before the next harvest. Some women work outside the home. You might find them selling in the marketplace: bread, beer, woven goods, small crafts. Others serve in temples as musicians, dancers, or priestesses, offering devotion through ritual and song. Wealthier women may oversee estates, servants, and fields, their authority respected in law and custom. Egypt, unlike many lands, grants women certain rights: inheritance, property, contracts. Yet these rights come with burdens. To manage wealth is to guard it, to struggle against loss, theft, or greed. For the poor, survival is harsher. A woman rises before dawn, works until dusk, and sleeps lightly, ready to rise again. Her skin is browned by the sun, her muscles hardened by labor, her spirit weighed by responsibility. She has no luxury, no pause, no escape. Her life is as bound as the threads on her loom, stretched taut until they fray. Pause again. Imagine your own hands on the grinding stone, the ache spreading up your arms, the dust coating your skin. Hear the loom's steady creak, the children's cries, the endless cycle of tasks that leave no moment for rest. This is not a soft life. It is endurance, day after day, year after year. Even in wealth, burdens remain. A woman of status may not grind grain, but she must oversee those who do, ensure that food and clothing flow steadily, manage disputes among servants, maintain the family's honor. She must navigate marriages, alliances, and expectations, her life shaped by choices that are not always her own. For you, this life would be crushing. The repetition, the endless duties, the constant watchfulness. You would tire quickly of the grinding stone, stumble at the loom, falter in the marketplace. The weight of household survival would press on your shoulders until your spirit bent under it. And yet, women endured. They laughed as children grew, sang while weaving, whispered prayers while grinding grain. They bore pain, loss, and struggle, and still held families together, thread by thread, loaf by loaf. Their strength was quiet but immense, unseen yet unbroken. The river breathes in, the desert breathes out. In every courtyard, every kitchen, every weaving room, women's labor sustains Egypt. Their hands shape the bread, the cloth, the family, the future. You close your eyes, and the loom's steady rhythm carries you into silence, childhood, and growing up. The hum of the loom fades, the grinding stone grows quiet, and in its place comes the laughter of children. Small feet patter against the hard-packed earth, voices rise in play, and the simple joy of youth spreads through the courtyard. Yet even here, beneath the sound of games and laughter, life for a child in ancient Egypt is far from easy. Children are everywhere. They run along the riverbanks, splash in the shallows, climb fig trees, chase each other in clouds of dust. Their heads are often shaved except for a side lock of hair, a mark of youth and innocence. Their clothes are simple, sometimes nothing at all, in the heat of summer. For a moment it looks like freedom. But freedom is brief, and childhood in Egypt is shorter than you might imagine. From the earliest years, children are pressed into work. A little boy may be tasked with herding goats, guiding them with a stick across rocky ground. A girl may fetch water, carry jars heavier than her small frame, help her mother grind grain or weave thread. What seems like play is often preparation, training the body and mind for labor that will consume a lifetime. Pause here. Imagine yourself small and barefoot, the sun already hot on your skin, though it is barely morning. In your hands is a water jar, its clay rough, its weight biting into your arms. You stumble once, spill some precious water, and a sharp voice scolds you. There is no indulgence, no gentleness. Each mistake means more work, more hardship. Childhood does not shield you, it prepares you. Education is rare, reserved mostly for the children of scribes, nobles, or the wealthy. A boy whose father writes for the temple may sit in a small room, reed pen in hand, scratching symbols onto shards of pottery or flattened scraps of papyrus. His lessons are harsh. Mistakes bring not gentle correction, but strikes from a cane. To learn is to suffer, yet to fail to learn is to lose any hope of rising above labor. Girls, even in wealth, are rarely taught to write. Their lessons are in weaving, cooking, managing households, and preparing for marriage. Their futures are bound by tradition, their paths laid out long before they can walk them. Yet within those limits, strength grows. Girls learn endurance, cunning, and the quiet authority of the home. But many children will not see adulthood. Illness stalks every street and courtyard. Fevers burn, coughs deepen, stomachs cramp. There are no medicines to cure what plagues the body, no doctors to soothe most ills. Amulets are worn, prayers are spoken, offerings are made to the gods. But still, small graves are dug, and grief is as common as laughter. To be a parent is to love with one hand and bury with the other. Pause again. Feel the fragility of childhood, the uncertainty in every breath. Imagine your own youth, shaped by labor, shadowed by sickness, shortened by expectation. It is not the carefree stretch of years you know. It is a narrow bridge, difficult to cross, with loss always at the edge. Yet there is joy, too. Children play with carved wooden animals, small clay dolls, knuckle bones tossed like dice. They sing songs, race through fields, splash in canals. They learn stories of gods and heroes told by elders as the fire burns low. They find delight where they can, laughter bubbling despite hardship. Their games echo through courtyards, bright sparks against the heavy rhythm of daily survival. For you, this life would be a shock. To carry burdens so young, to learn through pain, to face loss as often as play. The days would feel endless, the duties crushing, the joy too brief. You would falter beneath the weight of expectations, weary long before you grew tall. And yet, Egyptian children endured. They grew into farmers, scribes, soldiers, weavers, priests. Each bore the lessons of their childhood, the resilience of labor, the discipline of learning, the strength of survival. Their youth was not easy, but it was shaping, forging, unrelenting. The river breathes in, the desert breathes out. Children laugh, stumble, play, and work, their voices mingling with the endless rhythm of Egypt itself. You close your eyes, and the sound of their laughter fades into stillness, leaving only the echo of resilience, entertainment, and leisure. The clatter of water jars and the grind of stones fade, and now you hear a different sound, music drifting on the evening air. A flute plays, high and light, joined by the steady rhythm of a drum. Voices rise in laughter, in song, and for a moment, life in ancient Egypt loosens its grip. Even the hardest days held space for leisure, and though small, these moments glowed brightly against the long shadow of labor. Picture a courtyard lit by oil lamps. The air smells of roasted duck, fresh bread, and honey cakes. Guests recline on low couches, their hair scented with cones of perfumed wax. that melts slowly in the warmth of the night. They drink beer, or, if wealth allows, wine from jars imported from far-off lands. The laughter grows louder as music swells, harps are plucked, flutes sigh, drums keep a steady beat, dancers sway, their movements graceful and mesmerizing, golden jewelry glinting in the lamplight. This is entertainment for the wealthy, lavish banquets, endless food, and rivers of drink. Yet even here, pleasure is tempered. Too much indulgence risks scorn, too little makes one appear cold or distant. The balance of joy is carefully measured, just as in every other part of Egyptian life. Now, step away from the luxury of the nobles. In the villages, where wealth is scarce, entertainment is simpler but no less heartfelt. Men gather to drink beer brewed in clay jars, their conversations rolling into song. Women dance in small circles, clapping hands to the rhythm of drums. Children mimic the movements, laughing as they stumble, falling into the dust and rising again. There are no fine couches, no imported wines, but there is community, warmth, and release. Pause here. Hear the drumbeat, steady and deep, carrying into the night. See the flames flicker against the walls, faces glowing in the firelight. This is leisure, stripped of luxury, pure moments of music, dance, and laughter in a world that rarely allowed rest. For the young, games filled their hours of reprieve. Children tossed knucklebones carved from animal joints, much like dice. They spun small toys of wood or clay, raced in open fields, wrestled in the dust. Adults, too, found games in the form of senet, the board marked with squares, pieces moved by luck and strategy. Senet was more than play, it was tied to the divine, seen as a reflection of the soul's journey in the afterlife. Each move on the board carried both chance and fate, a small echo of life itself. There were also festivals, days when the weight of daily struggle lifted, if only slightly. Entire communities joined in processions to honor the gods. Statues were carried through the streets, incense burned, hymns rose into the sky. These festivals were not just devotion, they were entertainment, occasions of food, music, and celebration. For a time, people laughed together, prayed together, lived together beyond the confines of toil. Sports, too, had their place. Young men wrestled, raced, and practiced with spears or bows. The strong were admired, the skilled respected. Hunting in the marshes, chasing birds with nets, or fishing with harpoons was both necessity and pleasure, a blur of labor and leisure woven into one. Pause again. Picture yourself at one of these gatherings, a festival, a feast, a circle of music in a village. At first, you might relax, carried by the rhythm of the drums, soothed by the flickering firelight. But then comes the reality. The beer is thick and sour, the air heavy with smoke, the ground hard beneath you. Laughter feels brief, joy fleeting, because you know tomorrow brings grinding stones, herding goats, carrying jars. Leisure here is not escape. It is a pause before the wheel turns again. And for you, this pause would never be enough. You might long for more games, more comfort, more freedom to indulge. But Egypt offers little of that. Even the wealthy with their banquets and musicians live within boundaries, their pleasures hemmed in by duty, custom, and the ever-present gods. Too much joy is dangerous. Too much indulgence is frowned upon. Even laughter is measured. Yet still, Egyptians carved out moments of delight. A child's toy, a game of senet, a song at dusk, a dance by firelight. Small sparks in the long night, fragile but enduring. Their joy, though limited, was real, and it carried them through endless cycles of labor, loss, and survival. The river breathes in, the desert breathes out. Music drifts across the water, faint and haunting, then fades into silence. You close your eyes, and the drumbeat becomes the slow rhythm of your own heart, steady, ancient, unbroken. Military life and conquest. The music fades, and in its place comes the sound of marching. Sand crunches under countless feet, leather straps creak, bronze weapons clink softly in the morning sun. A line of men stretches across the horizon, soldiers of Egypt, summoned not for leisure, but for war. Life in the Egyptian military is no small burden. For most, it is not a choice. A farmer may find himself conscripted, pulled from his field, to take up a shield and spear. His hands, accustomed to planting barley, now grip a weapon. His body, shaped by labor, but not training, must endure long marches beneath a punishing sun. The army is no ragtag band. It is organized, disciplined, commanded by nobles and officers loyal to the pharaoh. Rows of infantry form the backbone, armed with spears, axes, and simple bows. Shields of wood and leather protect them, though poorly against the sharp bite of bronze. Behind them come the chariots, symbols of power, speed, and fear. Horses snort and paw the ground, pulling light wooden frames where archers stand ready, their bows capable of striking before the enemy can close. Pause here. Imagine the weight of it all, the shield heavy on your arm, the spear awkward in your grasp. The sun beats down, sweat stings your eyes, and ahead lies not glory, but fear. You are not a soldier by choice. You are a farmer pressed into service, a body to fill the ranks. The promise of war is not always conquest. Often it is defense. Nomadic tribes raid Egypt's borders. Libyans press from the west, Nubians from the south, Hittites from the north. To hold Egypt together requires blood, and it is the soldier who spills it. Campaigns stretch across deserts, through mountains, into foreign lands. The marches are endless, water scarce, food meager. Many never return. And yet for some, the military offers opportunity. A skilled man may rise through the ranks, win the favor of commanders, and earn land or wealth. A commoner who fights bravely may step beyond the limits of his birth, carving a place among higher ranks. But the cost is always steep and glory is rare. The chariot, though, is the jewel of Egyptian warfare, light, fast, deadly. Two men ride together, one controlling the horses, the other loosing arrows in a storm of death. To face such a weapon is to face terror itself, and yet to ride upon one is to be forever marked as elite, as chosen. But for most men, there is no chariot, only the slow grind of marching feet, the fear of arrows, the clash of spears. Pause again. Picture yourself on the battlefield. The dust rises, choking your lungs. The sound of shouting and screaming fills the air. Arrows whistle, shields splinter, men fall. The ground grows slick beneath your sandals, not with water, but with blood. Fear surges in your chest, your grip slips, your legs tremble. You are not ready, you were never ready, yet here you are. For you, survival would be unlikely. A single mistake, a shield held too low, a stumble in the sand, a glance away, and you would fall. The battlefield is merciless, the gods are silent, and the pharaoh, who commands your loyalty, is far away, safe in a palace, while you bleed into foreign soil. Yet military life is not only battle, it is also routine. Drills at dawn, polishing weapons, repairing armor, standing guard for hours in unrelenting heat, nights spent on hard ground, sleep broken by fear or hunger. The march, always the march, across distances so vast your feet blister and your body breaks. When war ends, if it ends, soldiers return home, changed, hardened, or broken. Some bring spoils, cattle, grain, gold, or prisoners taken as slaves. Others bring nothing but scars, visible and invisible. Their families see them as survivors, but they themselves carry memories of screams and shadows of death that never fade. The pharaoh's power is built on their suffering. Conquests expand Egypt's borders, fill its granaries, enrich its temples. Monuments rise to celebrate victories carved in stone for eternity. Yet the soldiers' names are rarely remembered. Their lives are given, their deaths unnoticed, swallowed by the sands. Pause once more. Imagine being one of them, not a name carved in stone, not a hero sung in hymns, but a body among thousands, a life spent and forgotten. The weight of duty presses down, and there is no choice, no escape. You fight because you must. You march because you are told. You kill or you die because that is all there is. For you, the life of a soldier in ancient Egypt would be unbearable. The heat, the hunger, the fear, the endless march toward death. It would crush you long before you raised your spear. And yet the army endured. It endured because Egypt demanded it, because empires are not built on prayers alone. They are built on dust, on sweat, on blood, on men whose names you will never know. The river breathes in, the desert breathes out. The march fades into silence, leaving only the ghost of footsteps and the weight of forgotten lives. The world of temples and priests. The battlefield fades, and in its place rises stone. Immense, towering pylons guard the entrance, their walls carved with stories of gods and kings. Columns soar like trees, painted in bright colors that defy the desert sun. The air grows cooler here, heavy with incense, filled with chanting voices. This is no battlefield. This is a temple, the heart of Egypt's spiritual life, and the domain of priests. For the common Egyptian, the temple is more than a house of gods. It is the center of community, the hub of festivals, the storehouse of grain, and often the judge of disputes. Its wealth rivals that of kings. Land, cattle, and treasure flow into its hands, and at its center are the priests, men of power, clothed in white linen, shaven of hair, purified each day. Picture them at dawn. A priest steps into a chamber where only he may go. Before him stands the statue of the god, hidden from the eyes of ordinary people. He bows low, whispers hymns, lights incense. He washes the statue, dresses it in fresh clothing, and offers food. To the Egyptians, this is not mere ritual, it is survival. The god must be cared for, honored, tended like a living being. If neglected, chaos threatens and the world itself trembles. Pause here. Imagine yourself as a priest. Your life is one of order and ritual. You rise before the sun, purify yourself in cold water, shave away every hair, and step into the temple barefoot. Day after day, you repeat the rites. Wash, clothe, feed, pray. It is a cycle as unending as the rivers flow. Yet behind the rhythm lies great weight. If you falter, if you fail, you risk angering the divine. The gods are not forgiving. For most Egyptians, the inner sanctuaries remain forever closed. They glimpse the gods only during festivals, when statues are carried outside in great processions. Crowds gather, incense burns, music swells. For a moment the veil lifts and the people feel the nearness of the divine. Then the statue returns inside, and once again the gods withdraw into shadow. Temples also serve as economic giants. They own land, employ farmers, scribes, artisans. Grain flows into their storehouses, redistributed at their command. A priest may wield as much authority as a noble, for temples are both spiritual and political. To stand against a temple is to stand against the gods themselves, and no one dares. But priestly life is not ease. Ritual demands precision, daily purification, strict diets, endless repetition. Some serve only in rotations, leaving the temple after weeks or months to return to ordinary life, while others remain tied to service for years. And behind the marble glow of power lies suspicion. Priests are watched, their loyalty questioned, for too much power in their hands threatens even the pharaoh. Pause again. Imagine yourself not as a priest, but as a commoner standing in the temple courtyard. You see the vast columns, hear the chanting, smell the incense, yet the gods remain far away, hidden behind doors you may never pass. You leave your offering, a loaf of bread, a jug of beer, and hope it pleases them. You bow, you pray, but you will never touch what lies inside. Would you endure this? The endless distance, the silence of gods who do not answer? For you, the mystery may turn to frustration. You might crave more, demand more, but Egypt offers no more. Faith here is obedience. It is ritual without question, devotion without dialogue. To doubt is dangerous, to rebel is unthinkable. Yet for Egyptians, this system brought order. The Nile flooded, the sun rose, the crops grew, all signs that the gods were content. And if disaster struck, it was not the gods' fault, but the failure of humans to honor them. The weight of blame always fell on mortal shoulders. Temples also served as schools of knowledge. Within their walls, priests studied astronomy, medicine, mathematics, and magic. Their records guided farmers, their remedies healed the sick, their incantations warded off danger. Knowledge was power, and priests held it tightly, guarding their scrolls and teachings from those unworthy to know. Once more, pause. Imagine you are ill, your body weak with fever. You go to the temple seeking aid. A priest writes charms, mixes herbs, murmurs spells. Perhaps you are healed, perhaps not, but either way you must pay in offerings. The priest's power is absolute, and your need leaves you helpless. For the foreigner, for you, life in this priestly world would be suffocating. The rules, the rituals, the secrecy, endless, demanding, unyielding. Your voice would be lost, your questions silenced, your presence tolerated only as a servant of the divine order. The temple would not free you, it would bind you tighter than chains. And yet, temples endured for millennia. Their columns still rise, their walls still speak in carved reliefs. Priests passed through them, names forgotten, but their rituals bound Egypt together, weaving mortal and divine in a fabric that shaped an empire. The river breathes in. The desert breathes out. The incense fades, the chanting stills. The great doors close once more, leaving you outside in silence, peering at walls you may never cross. Festivals and religion in daily life. The hush of temple halls fades, replaced by the roar of voices, the clash of drums, and the shimmer of banners waving in the sun. Festivals are everywhere in ancient Egypt, moments when devotion and joy intertwine, when the rigid rhythms of daily life loosen, and the gods step, however briefly, into the lives of mortals. Imagine a village at dawn. The smell of bread and roasting meat drifts through the streets. Farmers pause in their fields, children run through dusted paths, women prepare offerings of flowers and bread. At the heart of town, a temple courtyard hums with activity. Priests carry statues, their robes fluttering, incense burning in bronze censers. The air vibrates with chanting, the beat of drums, the melody of flutes. These celebrations are not mere entertainment, they are acts of devotion. Every song, every dance, every offering serves to honor the gods and maintain Mayat, the balance of the world. The Nile flows in response, crops flourish, disease is warded off, and fortune smiles upon those who participate faithfully. Pause here. Hear the drumming, the singing, the laughter of children mixing with solemn chants. Smell incense and roasting meat. Feel the heat of the sun on your skin, the dust under your sandals. This is daily life transformed by faith and festivity, ordinary labor set aside, even if only for a day. Festivals vary. Some honor a god's birthday, others celebrate victories, the inundation of the Nile or the harvest. Some are local, small and intimate, others enormous, drawing people from far and wide. A procession might snake through a city, statues of gods carried on elaborate shrines, priests chanting prayers that echo off stone walls, musicians filling the air with jubilant noise. Everyone participates. Children mimic the steps of dancers, women scatter flowers, men carry offerings of food, grain, and wine. Even the smallest festival is a marvel. Markets swell, foods are abundant, songs are sung in unison, games are played in streets. A peasant may dance for the first time all year, a child may taste sweets forbidden on ordinary days, a farmer may leave the fields for a brief respite, feeling the rhythm of the gods in his feet. Pause again. Imagine yourself swept into this crowd, faces painted with joy or devotion, bodies moving to drum beats, voices singing together in harmony. Even for a visitor, the energy is contagious, the pulse of the festival reaching deep into the body. Yet beneath the revelry lies a subtle weight. Misstep, disrespect, or impurity can offend the gods. Pleasure and devotion coexist uneasily, and every smile carries a measure of caution. The cycle of festivals mirrors the cycle of life and the Nile. During the inundation, priests lead ceremonies to ensure the river rises and falls at the proper time. During planting and harvest, offerings are made to secure fertility and abundance. During birthdays and deaths of gods, processions and rituals mark the passage of time and the continuity of divine protection. Even in private life, religion is inseparable from the mundane. Homes are filled with small altars, statues, and amulets. Before meals, a prayer may be whispered. Before sleep, a charm is placed beneath a pillow. Every action is shaded with the hope of divine favor, every word potentially a petition or blessing. Life without gods is unimaginable. Their presence permeates the air, the river, and the soil itself. For you, this constant intertwining of faith and life would feel relentless. Every day carries expectation. Every movement bears potential consequence. Every celebration demands awareness. The joy of festivals is tempered by discipline, the lightness of play by the gravity of belief. You might tire quickly of the devotion woven into every pleasure, weary of the responsibility that follows every song and dance. Yet Egyptians endured and even thrived. Festivals gave respite, communities gathered in shared purpose, and the cycles of celebration reinforced unity. The energy of drums, the music of flutes, the scent of incense, the laughter of children, they carried people through hardships, weaving continuity into the human experience. Even fleeting, even fragile, the joy was profound, a testament to resilience and faith. The river breathes in, the desert breathes out, drums fade, laughter softens, incense curls higher and dissipates into the air. The festival ends, and ordinary life resumes, fields to plough, grain to grind, water to carry. Yet for a moment the gods were present, and the people remembered joy. The rhythm of Egypt continues, unbroken, eternal, carried in song, ritual, and the pulse of the Nile itself. You close your eyes, and the sound of drums and flutes lingers, echoing through the desert silence. Slavery and labor. The drum beats fade, the laughter of festivals drifts away, and in its place comes the sound of relentless toil, the scrape of wooden ploughs, the crack of whips, the groan of men bending under heavy loads. This is the other side of ancient Egypt, the world of labor, of those bound not by choice, but by necessity, fear, or bondage. Slavery existed in Egypt. though it differed from later, more systematic forms known in other lands. Some were captives of war, foreigners brought to serve as labourers or servants. Others were indebted locals, bound by obligation until debts were repaid. Many more were peasants, tied to the land, whose labour sustained the temples, the pharaoh, and the nation itself. Pause here. Imagine standing in a field, the sun pressing down, soil hot underfoot. You lift a heavy basket of grain, sweat streaming down your back, muscles aching, while overseers watch, ready to strike for mistakes or slowness. The work is endless, and there is little reward beyond the hope of survival. The construction of Egypt's monuments, temples, and tombs relied heavily on labourers. Stones quarried from distant hills were dragged, lifted, and shaped by hands raw with effort. Teams of men pushed sledges across sand, lubricated by water to ease friction. The sweat of thousands soaked the earth, and yet each block, each carved relief, stood as a testament to both skill and suffering. Within the cities, labourers maintained infrastructure. Canals were dug to irrigate crops, granaries repaired to store the harvest, walls built to protect settlements. Their work was mundane, repetitive, exhausting, and constant, and it was essential. Without their toil, Egypt could not survive the Nile's fluctuations or the demands of its growing population. Pause again. Feel the weight of a basket on your shoulder, the sting of the sun, the ache in every joint. Hear the commands shouted, the whip cracking, the groans of fellow labourers. Life is measured in work, and work is measured in endurance. Rest is rare. Freedom is fleeting. Women, too, laboured, though often in different ways. They worked the household, ground grain, wove cloth, tended gardens, and cared for children. In wealthy households, they oversaw servants, managed storehouses, and ensured that every detail of domestic life functioned smoothly. The burden was heavy, the expectations high, and the work unending. Even children were not spared. From a young age, they were expected to assist, carrying water, gathering firewood, helping in fields or workshops. Play existed only in stolen moments, brief flashes between tasks that shaped bodies and minds early, often harshly. Childhood was preparation, survival, and contribution, all intertwined. Pause once more. Imagine a child carrying a clay jar across sun-baked streets, feet blistered, arms aching, but unwilling to falter. Every misstep brings correction, every failure threatens consequence. Labour is education, punishment, and expectation all at once. Temples and tombs offered employment too, but often at great personal cost. Artisans, sculptors, and scribes laboured for the pharaoh and the gods. Hours were long, mistakes punished, perfection demanded. To carve a hieroglyph incorrectly could anger the gods, to mispaint a scene could dishonour the dead. Skill brought recognition, yes, but it was always shadowed by pressure, responsibility, and the ever-present threat of failure. The labour force was also the backbone of Egypt's military and administrative might. Farmers fed soldiers, scribes recorded taxes, craftsmen produced weapons and armour. Without these unseen contributions, the pharaoh's empire could not hold. The nation thrived on the backs of those who bore the unglamorous, exhausting work of survival and construction. For you, life as a labourer or servant would be unforgiving. The sun would burn, your muscles would ache, your body would crave rest you cannot take. Mistakes would be punished, weakness exploited, and the work would never end. Freedom is a dream. Survival is the only reality. Yet despite harshness, Egyptians endured. Labourers found rhythm in repetition, community in shared hardship, moments of respite in festivals or communal gatherings. They sang songs while working, told stories during breaks, laughed in spite of exhaustion. Their endurance, though often unnoticed by history, formed the invisible scaffolding of an empire. The river breathes in, the desert breathes out.
Hands that tilled soil, carried stone, wove cloth, and shaped clay remain unseen in monuments and temples. Yet without them, Egypt would crumble. You close your eyes, and the weight of labor, relentless and eternal, lingers in the dust and sun.
Artisans, craftsmen, and daily work. The sun rises over a village and the noise of everyday life grows. Not the clamour of soldiers or the groan of labourers dragging stones, but the focused, rhythmic sound of skill at work, chisels tapping stone, mallets striking wood, brushes stroking wet paint. This is the world of artisans and craftsmen, those whose hands shape Egypt's daily life, beauty, and legacy. Picture a workshop. A sculptor crouches beside a block of limestone, tracing hieroglyphs into its surface. Dust rises with each tap of his chisel, coating his skin, his hair, his clothes. Precision is everything. One mistake, a misstrike, a crooked line, can ruin days of work and anger a patron or a god. Sweat beads on his forehead, but his focus never wavers. Nearby, a potter spins clay on a wheel, forming jars, bowls, and cups. The mud takes shape beneath expert fingers, delicate but strong. Each piece will be fired, painted, used in homes, temples, or tombs. The potter's work is humble yet essential. Egypt, as daily life depends on these containers for water, grain, beer, and oil. Pause here. Hear the scrape of chisel on stone, the soft whirl of the potter's wheel, the faint hiss of brushes on wet paint. Imagine the smell of clay, the sting of dust in your eyes, the ache in your back as hours pass in concentration. This is a life of discipline, repetition, and relentless precision. Jewelry makers work nearby, hammering gold, threading beads, carving precious stones. Their creations will adorn pharaohs, priests, and nobles, symbols of wealth, devotion, and status. Each necklace, bracelet, and amulet carries meaning, protection, status, or spiritual power. One slip, one mistake, and the piece is worthless. Yet skill here is highly valued. Mastery brings recognition and sometimes wealth. Weavers bend over looms, weaving fine linen thread by thread, creating clothing and household items. The work is meticulous, painstaking, often dull, yet crucial. Linen clothing is more than comfort. It is modesty, status, and even ritual purity. To the untrained hand, weaving is slow torture. To the practiced artisan, it is rhythm, precision, and quiet pride. Pause again. Imagine yourself trying these crafts for the first time. The chisel feels heavy, the thread tangles, the clay slips from your fingers. Frustration builds quickly. You would stumble, break tools, ruin materials, and perhaps feel the sharp sting of reprimand. The life of an artisan is not glamorous. It demands patience, endurance, and skill honed over years. Even scribes, the literate elite of daily work, labor long hours. Reed pens scratch hieroglyphs onto papyrus, recording taxes, trade, laws, and religious texts. Their eyes strain, hands cramp, but the empire's memory depends on them. One miswritten symbol could misrepresent ownership, spell disaster for a temple, or anger a god. Precision is survival. Artisans often work in teams, particularly for large projects like tombs or temples. Each hand has a task, each person relies on the others. Coordination, patience, and endurance are essential, yet hierarchy and expectation can create tension. Mistakes are magnified, disputes common, and the pressure unyielding. Pause once more. Imagine a day in this workshop world, sun high, sweat running, hands raw, eyes burning from dust or pigment. The work seems endless, yet every piece completed, every line carved, every pot fired is proof of mastery, survival, and contribution. You are both bound and elevated by the skill you wield. For you, this life would be exacting. Mistakes would frustrate, monotony would weigh, and the quiet intensity of craft would be exhausting. Yet for those who endure, artistry brings dignity. Though the work is daily, practical and sometimes unseen, it shapes life, society, and even the afterlife. Tombs and temples, homes and markets all bear the mark of these hands. Even mundane tasks, cooking, fetching water, baking bread, repairing roofs, require skill. Every small act contributes to survival, comfort, and order. Daily work in Egypt is not leisure. It is life itself, structured, demanding, and inescapable. The river breathes in, the desert breathes out. Stone, clay, gold, thread, and ink carry Egypt forward, each artifact a trace of human skill and endurance. You close your eyes and the echo of chisels, wheels, and brushes lingers, a reminder that even in ordinary work, legacy endures. Food, agriculture, and daily survival. The rhythmic clatter of chisels and wheels fades, replaced by a different kind of rhythm. The slow, tireless pulse of the land. The Nile swells, the sun rises, and farmers bend over furrows, planting, watering, harvesting. Food is survival, and in Egypt, the life of everyone from pharaoh to laborer depends on the river, the soil, and the relentless work that binds them together. Imagine yourself standing in a field at dawn. The earth is damp with irrigation water, mud clinging to your feet. The sun rises quickly, burning your back as you thrust a wooden plough through the soft soil, guiding oxen that snort and strain. Grain is scattered by hand, seeds pressed into the earth by hours of repetition. It is tiring, back-breaking work. Every day the same effort, the same heat, the same vigilance. Pause here. Hear the low snort of oxen, the creak of the wooden plough, the soft rustle of grain against soil. Smell the damp earth, the sharp scent of manure, the faint sweetness of ripening crops. This is the foundation of life itself. Without it, the empire starves, temples crumble, and survival falters. Egyptian agriculture relies on the Nile's inundation, which floods fields, leaving behind rich, fertile soil. Timing is everything. Plant too early and the fields are dry. Too late and the flood recedes before crops take root. Farmers measure the river, pray to the gods of water and fertility, and work tirelessly to coax life from the soil. Harvest time brings its own hardships. Grain is cut with sickles, threshed to separate kernels, winnowed to remove chaff. Large baskets are filled and carried to granaries, where overseers weigh and record every measure. Mistakes can mean hunger, punishment, or loss of standing. The work is communal and yet exhausting, with little reward beyond survival. Pause again. Imagine carrying a basket of wheat across the sun-baked fields, muscles screaming, skin burning, sweat stinging your eyes. Each step feels endless, each task repetitive, yet crucial. Survival depends on your strength and endurance, and the river's mercy is never guaranteed. Food for the average Egyptian is simple but vital. Bread is central, baked from emmer wheat, sometimes coarse, sometimes finer, if wealth allows. Beer, made from fermented grain, is both drink and sustenance, a liquid supplement to meals. Vegetables like onions, leeks, and garlic are common, as are dates and figs when available. Meat is rare, eaten mostly during festivals, hunting expeditions, or by the wealthy. Cooking is a daily challenge. Grain must be ground, dough kneaded, fire kept alive, ovens managed. Families share tasks, often beginning before sunrise and continuing until dusk. Even small mistakes, burned bread, spilled water, forgotten grains, can carry consequence, for food is scarce, precious, and essential. Agriculture also defines social roles. Farmers are the backbone of Egypt, tied to land they may not own, working fields under the oversight of nobles or temples. Women participate in food preparation, maintenance of granaries, and tending of gardens. Children assist where they can, learning survival and skills simultaneously. Everyone contributes, failure is shared, but so is the burden of success. Pause once more. Picture yourself trudging home with a bundle of wheat or a jar of beer, the weight pressing on your arms and back, feet blistered, sun scorching your skin. Your reward is basic sustenance, bread, vegetables, water, perhaps a slice of fish if fortune smiles. Luxury is rare, comfort is fleeting, survival is relentless. Even with the Nile's gifts, life is fragile. Drought, flood, pests, or disease can destroy harvests. Grains stored in granaries may be eaten by rodents or spoiled by humidity. Every year carries risk, and every meal is a small victory. The gods are invoked to protect crops, bless waters, and ensure fertility, but the work remains human. Sweat, skill, endurance, and vigilance dictate life more than prayers alone. For you, the life of an Egyptian farmer or household would be relentless. The sun, the labor, the scarcity, the uncertainty, each a constant challenge. You would stumble under the weight of the tasks, tire quickly, and long for comforts that rarely exist. Egypt demands persistence, strength, and patience, and those who fail fall behind, often irrevocably. Yet Egyptians endured. Their rhythms of planting and harvesting, cooking and storing, feeding family and community created the foundation for civilization. Each loaf of bread, each jar of beer, each successful harvest sustained millions. Without these daily labors, even the pharaoh, the priests, and the artisans would have nothing. The river breathes in, the desert breathes out. Grain sways in fields, water flows through canals, ovens smoke in villages. Life continues, fragile and persistent, under sun and sky. You close your eyes, and the pulse of the fields, the weight of the harvest, and the rhythm of survival echo quietly, endlessly, through the land of Egypt. Medicine, illness, and healing. The hum of fields and ovens fades, replaced by quieter, more urgent sounds, coughing, whispered prayers, the rustle of papyrus as remedies are recorded, the steady hands of a healer working over a patient. Life in ancient Egypt is precarious, and health is never guaranteed. The work of survival extends beyond food and labor. It reaches into flesh, bone, and spirit. Imagine yourself in a small home. A child lies on a reed mat, fever burning, eyes glassy. A parent fans the child, whispers prayers, rubs oils over the skin. In the corner, a healer prepares a poultice, grinding herbs with precise rhythm. Some of these remedies are effective, others mystical, combining observation with centuries of tradition. Each action carries hope, but never certainty. Egyptian medicine blends practical knowledge with spiritual belief. Wounds are cleaned, broken bones set, and illnesses treated with herbs and poultices. Scribes record treatments and symptoms on papyrus, creating manuals that pass knowledge from one generation to the next. But disease is often a mystery, and the line between magic and medicine is thin. Amulets, spells, and prayers are as crucial as bandages, honey, or wine. Pause here. Picture yourself receiving treatment. Hands are steady but firm. Herbs are crushed under a mortar, a mixture applied to wounds. Incantations rise in the air, soft and persistent. You must trust in skill and divine favor alike. Recovery is never certain, and fear lingers with every cough, every shiver, every pulse. Common illnesses range from fevers, infections, and parasites to more severe conditions like broken bones or eye diseases. Malaria, dysentery, and smallpox-like symptoms take many lives. The heat and humidity of the Nile, combined with crowded homes and limited sanitation, make disease a constant threat. Every cough, every rash, every limp carries potential danger. Healers are valued, yet their knowledge is incomplete. They work long hours, traveling between homes, temples, and villages. Some are specialized, eye doctors, bone setters, herbalists, while others combine multiple skills. Their remedies are often time-consuming. Poultices must be prepared, incantations recited, oils rubbed into skin. Success depends on patience, skill, and sometimes luck. Pause again. Imagine your own body failing, fever burning, strength ebbing. You watch as hands crush leaves, mix oils, chant words you don't understand. Relief may come, or it may not. Pain is intimate, relentless, and beyond control. For you, such fragility would be terrifying, each ailment a reminder of human weakness and mortality. Birth is equally perilous. Midwives assist women in labor using herbal remedies and manual techniques. Infant mortality is high and both mother and child face enormous risk. Families pray, perform rituals, and rely on knowledge passed down orally for generations. Every birth is a gamble, every survival a small miracle. Even the wealthy are not immune. Disease strikes without regard to social status. Pharaohs, priests, and nobles may access better remedies, but mortality is universal. Medicine is a blend of practical treatment, religious ritual, and hope, a fragile shield against the inevitability of decay. For you, the Egyptian approach to health would be exhausting and uncertain. Every ache, cough, or fever demands attention. Every wound or illness carries anxiety. The balance of diet, labor, water, and ritual governs survival. Comfort is fleeting, control is limited, and reliance on skill, faith, and fortune is constant. Yet Egyptians endured. They recorded remedies, observed symptoms, experimented with treatments, and passed knowledge forward. Their understanding, though incomplete, saved lives, eased suffering, and shaped a civilization that valued both practical skill and spiritual care. They learned to treat wounds, soothe pain, and nurture fragile bodies with what the world provided, all while knowing death was always near. The river breathes in. The desert breathes out. Oil, herbs, and incantations mingle in homes, healing and hope intertwined. You close your eyes, and the quiet rhythm of care, the delicate balance of life and illness echoes softly, reminding you of the constant, precarious effort that sustained every Egyptian day.